Good evening. My name's Brenda Rogers, and I just want to get a couple of assurances from you that you can actually hear me. I'm going to be introducing our speaker in just a moment, but just want to check if you wouldn't mind practicing typing in the chat. Yes, actually fantastic. Everyone's started to type in, so good, that's working. Now, I'd like to just, before Cliff starts with his presentation, there's a couple of things I'd like to mention to help you get the most out of tonight's session. So we are talking business, we are talking finances, we're talking dollars, and it's a lot of, some people might consider left brain stuff. So a couple of hints for paying attention and keeping your attention on the webinar, and that is to close down your email. If you have email on your computer, it's a good idea to close that down so you're not tempted. Also, to turn your phone off so that's not a distraction. Turn up the volume so you can hear everything properly. I would suggest that you put an oil on to diffuse. I've got, what have I got? I've got Australian Blue at the moment, which I love. But if you have peppermint or rosemary or brain power, something like that to help you keep focused. Now, today is an introduction. So we have 3 sessions coming up. Today is Cliff, and in June we have Andrew Wild, and in July we have Pauline Hall, and all talking about the basics of the compensation plan, but they're designed to be together. So do make sure that you get all 3, either live or the recordings. And also, if you feel overwhelmed or like you don't fully understand it by the end of tonight's session, that's okay. That can be normal. There's more work to be done. And Cliff, we may even actually come up with a few quiz questions in between the next session just to help you study. That's an idea that I've been contemplating as well. Now, also on your screen on the control panel, you should be able to see handouts. So I've put there a copy of the comp plan brochure. It's a really good idea to have a copy of the comp plan brochure in front of you so that you can take notes. And I've also put there the FAQs and the terms and definitions. They are in your virtual office. You'll find them in there, but in case you're struggling with that, I've just put them there for you to download as well. So I think that's all from me. I hope you enjoy this evening's session. I'd now like to introduce you to Cliff Winkleman, who is a Gold with Young Living and a former General Manager as well, and considered one of the experts on the comp plan in Australia. So Cliff, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thanks, Brenda. Hello, everybody. I know you can't reply, but that's okay. Tonight is an introduction, as Brenda said, and so we're going to be talking about the very basics. And one of my mentors, Zig Ziglar, made a quote many years ago, and some of you have probably heard Mary Young quote this too. You can have anything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And that is so true, and it's the basis of how the compensation plan works. So let's go straight on. Firstly, the only way to get paid is through the movement of product. And any product which is part of the compensation plan will have a PV, which means points value, attached to it. And that's why most of our tools, business aids and so on, do not have a PV. Now, in some cases, a special bonus with certain conditions may be attached instead of a PV. For example, the PSK or Premium Starter Kit bonus. So in the compensation plan, it's the core of how we get paid. Then there are separate bonuses, which are outside of and in addition to the compensation plan. And Andrew and Pauline will discuss those in the following seminars or webinars. Because we are an international company, it is always best to explain the plan using PV, not dollars. PV is pretty much constant across the different markets, whereas currency varies depending on the market. They are closely related, but not of equal amounts, and Andrew will explain this in the next webinar when he talks about PEG rate. To be eligible for commissions, we must qualify. And personally, and I think this is an area where there's a little bit of confusion out there in the with the different members, because when I look at some people, they can be on 99 or 98 PV, and yet they've got volume underneath them. I'm sure they just don't understand what's going on. So a basic qualification, if you want to earn a check or be part of the commission structure, you need to have put in a minimum 100 PV personal order. And there are additional requirements, that's OGV, PGV and legs, and don't get too caught up with that because we're going to explain what each of these is as we go through. And they are required as we progress in rank. They may be different to the separate bonuses. And all qualifications, commissions and bonuses are monthly. At the end of the month, everything is reset to 0 and the count starts again for the next month. If you don't qualify, the volume rolls up to the next qualified person above you. So let's look at some definitions. Firstly, enroller. The enroller is the person who basically does the work and links a new member to Young Living with an account or membership, whatever terminology you're comfortable using. The sponsor is the person under whom the new member is placed in the commission structure. And PV, or points value, is the commissionable value of a product. So let's explain this enroller sponsor in a little more detail. And this may look a little messy as we go through, but hopefully by the time we get to the end of the slide, it will all just fall into place. So let's start off with you. You introduce Bob and put yourself as both the enroller and the sponsor. So Bob is on your level 1 and the start of a leg. Bob introduces Sally and puts himself as the enroller and the sponsor. So Sally is on Bob's level 1 and your level 2. You introduce Tina, you put yourself as the enroller and Sally as the sponsor. Tina then is on Sally's level 1, Bob's level 2, and your level 3. Now, Tina is your prospect, so be aware that in this instance, in this particular example, you have just given away 4% of your uni-level commission on Tina's purchases each and every month from then on. And maybe even have Tina feel uncared for because you placed her under someone else. Now, where you put people is entirely up to you, but I think you need to understand the ramifications in some cases of doing that. Customers do not occupy a level, that they are attached to you, and we'll do a little bit more on that next couple of slides.
So, Cliff, may I interrupt just for a second?
Yes.
I just want to let everyone know that I'm taking questions and I'm going to be asking Cliff your questions. So if you feel like you'd like something clarified or explained again, then please type into the question box, and at some point I'll be able to ask Cliff your questions. Thanks, Cliff.
I just picked up in the questions, Brenda, that there's somebody's got no audio.
Yeah, that's all right. They're
okay.
They're remote.
So moving on to the next slide, let's look at some basic definitions. PV actually has two meanings. Firstly, it means points value, which is the commissionable value of a product. But it can also mean personal volume. That's the total monthly volume of your own personal orders. PGV stands for personal group volume. which is the monthly income in an organisation, including your personal customers, but excluding any silver or higher rank volume and any qualifying legs volume. Now that's a little bit wordy, but as we go through, hopefully that will become clearer for you.
And
OGV.
Cliff,
yes.
Can you just clarify who PGV is relevant for? What ranks?
Okay, it's only relevant from silver and up.
Thank you.
PGV is not a qualification requirement for the first few levels, as you'll see when we get a couple of slides further on. OGV is the organisation group volume. That's the total monthly volume of your entire organisation. That's you and everybody below you, regardless of rank or anything else like that. Leg by OGV is the number of legs and the amount of monthly OGV required for each leg, and you will understand that a little further when we get on. So let's now look a little bit more about legs and levels. This is probably more relevant to newcomers, but there could even be a few people in there attending here that a little bit uncertain of some of this, particularly if they're new to this industry. So let's start with you. The first person you introduce becomes your first leg and level 1. The person they introduce becomes level 2 or the next level down. Next one underneath that would be level 3, and they're all part of leg 1. In the same way, you can have start another leg. First person would be level 1, person underneath that would be level 2, and so on. And the same sort of thing for level 3. When you have customers, these are customers who you have linked up to Young Living with a retail account. They pay retail price and become part of your PV and your PGV in Virtual Office. Now, if you go into your Virtual Office, and I don't mean right now, but get into Virtual Office, and if you hover your mouse over the drop-down arrow that says PV, a little box similar to this will come up. Now, you'll notice that your PV is divided into 2 parts. It says personal and customer. What that means is that in this particular sample here, or example, and this is actually of my thing, it means that I placed a personal orders in that month for 399.25 PV. Customers in my organisation at that point in time had placed orders for 142. So my total PV showing in the Virtual Office was actually 541.25. So to earn a commission, the minimum PV is 100. And that's depicted in this, and I took this straight out of the comp plan brochure. When you first join Young Living and you join, say, with the PSK for want of a different example or a better example, PSK will give you a 100 PV. So you'll notice here that the distributor is qualifying here with a 100 PV points, or 100 points. You can be a distributor with 50 PV, but as 50 PV, you will not be part of the commission structure. Now, how do you get to the next rank? The next rank from above a distributor is a star. But you'll notice down here when we look, the only difference that's come in is there's a section under the, or beside the OGV column that says for a star you need to have 500 OGV. So for want of a different example, let's assume, and I know we shouldn't assume anything, but in this case we're going to, let's assume that everybody has done the 100 points. And I want you to think about it. How many people would you need in your organisation at 100 points each to have an organisational group volume of 500? And I know that you can't talk back to me, so I'm going to do a couple of what ifs. Sorry?
You want them to type it in?
Okay, somebody has just put 5. Now I want you to think about it. Yes, 5 is correct as far as the number of people in your organisation, but you also have yourself, don't you? So apart from you, you really only need 4 other people on 100 PV to give you a 500 group value of OGV. So that's you plus 4, that's right. So what do we need to do to get to the next rank, which is senior star? Well, really, all you have to do is more of the same, because the only thing that's changed is the OGV. The OGV has gone from 500 to 2,000. And you can do the maths on that for the number of extra people that you're going to need to become senior star. When we get to executive, the same things happen. That OGV has increased. This time it's 4,000, but there's another qualification requirement that's cut in at this level. And it says here on the left, leg and OGV. We need 2 legs with a minimum of 1,000 PV each. So a total of 4,000 points in your organisation, plus included in that must be 2 separate legs with a minimum of 1,000 PV in each. So as I see it, your number 1 goal, short term, basically when you start off, is to aim for the next highest rank. When you start as a distributor, first step, get to star. Don't think beyond that. Then from there, next one, and to do that, as we've just said, all you have to do is do more of the same. An executive, more of the same, and helping to develop others, because that's where your 2 legs of 1,000 come in. Longer term, I suggest you keep executive in mind. And I'm not going to jump ahead to some of the other slides. We'll talk about that more a little bit later on. When we do that, we can see how at each of these levels, from distributor on the 100-point side through to executive, there are different levels of commission. As a distributor on 100 PV, you get paid to 2 levels. Level 1 is 8%, level 2 is 5%. When you increase your rank up to star, everything else has stayed the same, but you get paid to another level underneath you. Senior star, again, you just get paid to another level. We're down to 4 levels. And an executive, you are paid to 5 levels. And it doesn't get any more than that in the basic uni-level compensation structure. So you can get from executive right through to a Royal Crown Diamond, and in this part of the compensation plan, those percentages are not going to change, and you're not going to get paid on any more levels of that particular commission. So understanding the basics, it's very simple. Use the products, get your own story, be careful not to make any therapeutic claims, develop a love of the products, and share your experience. Link the person up with a premium starter kit or any of the other starter kits that when they come online a little bit later on, and help them to follow the above 3 steps, and then repeat daily. It's very important to remember that width builds wealth, depth builds stability. For maximum rewards, you need a combination. But keep in mind that we basically get paid on OGV. Yes, rank is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying for a moment that rank is not important. But you get paid on OGV. The more OGV you have up in the first 5 levels of your business, the more dollars you're going to get. It's as simple as that. And the next step after that is silver, because at the rank of silver, another level of commissions begins. And that's your generation commissions, which is the reward for helping others to succeed. And I'm not going any further with that. For further training on this, well, I suggest you be at the Mastermind weekend.
So, Cliff.
Yes?
I have a question for you. It's from Rebecca.
Okay.
And
Okay, just hang on 2 seconds because I need to see whether I can get that section on my screen here is extremely small,
Yeah, it is.
and
Um,
it's a big question.
but I can ask it of you as well,
Yes.
relating to if there's uni-level commissions, then why wouldn't you put a customer in your downline? So I'm assuming, Rebecca, you mean customer as in a retail customer. Why would you have them as a customer, Cliff, rather than have them in your downline and give them a wholesale account? I think that's what you're asking, Rebecca. If you could just confirm that for me.
Okay, let me talk about that one. They can't be a member as part of the compensation plan if they haven't, as you mentioned, Brenda, become a wholesale customer. In other words, bought a starter kit. Now, from a practical point of view, there are people out there who say, oh, yes, look, I'd be quite happy to link up with the company. I'd be quite happy to buy direct from them, but I don't want to sign any of these application agreement forms. And I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't want to buy a starter kit. All I want to do is buy the product. They're the ones we're referring to when I refer to customers. If they're happy to buy a starter kit, I would always get them to buy a starter kit and put them in in my commission structure. And as far as my own personal one, if they were my prospect, my contact, I would always put them front line. But that's the way I work. It's not a rule that you have to do that. I know there are other people who do differently. So did that answer your question?
I don't think it did quite, considering Rebecca's next question, but it does open up the next question she's asked, and that is the difference between, because we have the term in the compensation plan, we have the term customer for retail customer, which you've just explained, and then we have distributor, and everyone who opens a wholesale account is a distributor, but there's a distinction between them and a business builder. Can you explain that?
Okay, well, that's only in our distributor's mind. In other words, us, I'm talking about. As far as the compensation plan goes, there is no distinction. In other words, when they join as, if you want to call it a full member or a wholesale member, they, as a wholesale member, they have the rights to sponsor people and whatever. Whether they do or not is a whole different ballgame.
So I have another question for you, Cliff. Yeah, I think that's
yes.
I think that was excellent. So I'm just reading Rebecca's question. I know some people like to build wide and not place people or sponsor them under someone, and I feel they aren't gaining the best possible commissions or up ranking. This is a big discussion, this one, Cliff.
Okay, well, I'm going to just suggest for a moment, just let me have a look here. Maybe we can deal with it here. Now let me go a little further here.
Yeah.
Now I've lost my spot.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea because we're getting into the application of the comp plan in business, and I just wanted to.
I'm not trying to duck the question.
No.
I'm now trying to find what slide I'm on.
16.
Okay. So let me go through this, and some of what I'm going to do in the next part, I think, will answer that.
Yeah.
Will answer what that is.
Cliff, I have a question before you go on. Now,
okay.
In your example, you showed legs, as in three lines that came down from you, from the distributor. But a leg can be a little bit more complicated than that. You know, it can.
Oh, of course. That's as far as if you just look at. Let me go back to that diagram. Okay, let's look at that. Can you all see my mouse button?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So here's you. We have started in this example that I have 3 people frontline. As we go through, you're going to find that this person is going to have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 frontline. Same with this person, hopefully. Same with this person, and the same with this. So this becomes a multitude of fruit, if you like, as part of the tree. If they're basically under me with this, following this particular line, then they're going to be part of that leg. But that leg, I mean, I could have 1,000 people on my front line or on level 1. This person might have 300 person on their front line. This one might only have 20. This one could have whatever they want. And the same is going to happen. So each of these is going to mushroom out as we go down, except that when we try and draw it on a diagram, it becomes impossible to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. All right, you can go back to slide 16. Thanks, Cliff, and we'll keep going.
Okay. Some sort of technological glitch nearly there. There's 16, right? So this is the way I work. If they are your contact, they go frontline to you. In other words, you are the enroller and the sponsor. If they are someone else's contact, they are placed underneath that person who becomes the sponsor. This is why we have both an enroller and a sponsor option. A lot of companies don't have that option. You introduce somebody, they go frontline, and that's it. You don't get a choice. So just to go through that again, if they're your contact, they go frontline to you. In other words, you are both the enroller and the sponsor. If they are someone else's contact, they are placed under that person who becomes the sponsor. Now, the enroller can be either you or the other person, depending on who did the work to get them enrolled. And I usually decide that mutually with the person who provided the contact. Remember, it is always what is best for the new person. It is never about you. And never try to steal someone else's contact. And when you're going through this process, sometimes diffusing or applying a couple of drops of harmony and or acceptance can be beneficial during this process. Maybe even forgiveness. But there's a number of blends that come to mind there that could be useful for that. I think because we're hopefully building for the long term, I see it as important that everybody is happy. And if people don't know why they're being placed somewhere else, and I'm not saying don't place them somewhere else, but I'm saying do it with an open discussion as to where you're placing them, why you're doing that, and make sure they're in agreement with that. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What I've found, and keep in mind I'm saying what I've found, a lot of this has come directly from Mary Young over the years, but a good and effective protocol to follow is this. Whoops, when I get my mouse working again. Firstly, locate. In other words, become a product of the product, a walking billboard, and look for people who are looking. I know back in the early days, I was so excited about I'm still excited about the product, but I was so excited that I would try and convince everybody that they should be in this. And convincing people is hard. And I found when I changed my attitude and started looking for people who are looking, there are lots and lots of people out there who are looking for opportunities. And it is much easier to work with a person who's already looking than have to convince them, because another thing that I've found over the years is that if you have to convince them to get in, You're going to have to continually work with them to convince them to stay in and to convince them to use the product, and it becomes a real hassle. Much easier to look for people who are looking and work with them. When you find with somebody like that, you communicate with them, you build rapport. You always focus on them. Ask questions, and the big one is listen to their answers. Because again, quite often I'll notice that some people, they're so busy asking the question, they forget to listen to the answer. And if you don't listen to the answer, then it's difficult to follow up and make an appointment and match everything else up to suit their needs. Once you make the appointment, share. I love the new Ignite presentation, works brilliantly, and fit our products to their wants. Then educate, simply how to stay compliant. Teach them where to source good information. And as we all know, that's discoverlsp.com now. Then duplicate. Teach them to follow this concept and inspire them with Gary Young's vision and mission. Remember, thank your enroller sponsor regularly for introducing you to these fantastic life-changing products, and be forever grateful. Become self-reliant. Remember, from you down, it's your business. It is your responsibility to support and train your frontline members. The Young Living Plan is called a uni-level plan, which means build one level, frontline, and teach them to do the same. That's why it's called a uni-level. The key rank is executive. Now that might seem a little bit odd, but I'm going to explain that a little further. When each person focuses on helping each of their front line to reach executive, all higher ranks and bonuses will automatically follow. Think back to the diagram that we had there with the requirements for executive. We had 100 PV of personal order. We had a 4,000 OGV, and with two legs of 1,000. I know we weren't going to talk about silver, but we are, just briefly. The requirements for silver are 10,000 OGV, but you need two legs of 4,000 OGV. If you have two executive legs, then that's given you the leg requirements for silver. All you've got to do is work on some of your other legs then to get your OGV up to the 10,000, and you are at the rank of silver. You don't have to think about it. If we're focusing on helping everybody on our front line get to the rank of executive, because of the volumes, they don't have to be executive as such, but they have to have the volumes required for executive. The rest will just fall into place. And the key process is duplication. In other words, you teach these principles to your frontline members and help them to do the same. And above all, be happy, have fun, make Young Living a part of your daily routine, and have no attachment to the outcome. I love this quote. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So happy building. And now we're ready for more questions, if that's not ready.
That's absolutely awesome, Cliff. Thank you so much. We really would like now for you to ask your questions for clarification and for
Oops.
The cleaner's just come in, so I'm just working out that, dealing with that. But clarification, we want to make sure that you understand these because Andrew's going to be talking about similar but different topics next time, and this is a great foundation. So one of the questions that came through, Cliff, was with regard to your suggestions regarding sponsors and enrollers and who goes where. One of the questions was, if the introducing member isn't on ER or isn't a business builder?
It doesn't matter, as long as they're a full member.
But
Because while they mightn't be on it, while they might not be on essential rewards today, or a business builder, to use your terminology today, who knows what's going to happen next week? And if they've given you a name and you put the person under them, that then gives you an opportunity to also go back and say, hey, look, this person's going crazy and whatever. If you did this, this, and this, you could get something, and it can be a great incentive.
awesome. So one of the comments from Andrew is about retail customer earnings. And he's mentioning that the starter kit bonus and the fast start bonus, which are enroller bonuses, are only
Yes.
50 PV, have a 50 PV requirement. Something to remember.
Yes, but he's going to talk about that next month, right?
He is, yes.
That's well, Andrew's who's doing the presentation next month is talking about those bonuses. That's why I didn't get into that area.
Yeah, he's just bringing that in for a little taste of next month. So, so any other questions? Everyone fully understands everything we've spoken about and doesn't need any more clarification? Looks like it, Cliff. You've done a fantastic job. So we are,
well, that's great.
and we are recording this, so it will be available in the virtual office sometime soon. So you'll have the slides and the recording to refer to.
Okay, so that's all we need, is it?
Yep, that's it. That's it from us. I just want to remind people about the mastermind event that you mentioned, Cliff. Do you want to just briefly mention that?
Well, you go ahead and do that. You know more about that than I do.
Oh, okay. So it's a business building event that's being held at head office in August 2016, if you're listening to this webinar prior to that. And it's aimed at senior stars and above. So if that's you, then you qualify to, there are qualifications that are required for you to attend that free event. And it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have Clifton Dukes, who is the guy in the US who's the specialist on the comp plan teaching, but he's teaching advanced and intermediate only, which is partly why we're doing this basic comp plan training. So if you're interested in that, feel free to email me for more details, although an email has been sent out to all senior stars and above, inviting them to that event. So that's it for me, Cliff. Any final words from you?
No, just happy building to everybody.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time. Good night.